You've heard that phrase, right? You don't know what you don't know. Well, this week I want to go into a bit more detail on that and explain how it might relate to your teen and their study. Now, you might also have heard of the 4 stages of competence. Now, there's some debate over whether this is attributed to Abraham Maslow or Noel Birch, but here's a quick overview in my own words, and I'm actually kind of going to review them in reverse. So let's start with what we do know and we're good at in terms of competency. This stage is known as unconscious competence, where we've had so much practice with a skill that it's become second nature and can be performed very easily without really having to think about it. For many of us, this is like driving. It's something that we've all had to learn at some point and really concentrate on, but eventually we just do it without really having to think about it. And as a student example, this could be the act of just writing, not so much thinking about what to write and what information, but the actual skill of forming letters and words. Next is conscious competence, where we know or understand how to do something, but it still requires concentration. Perhaps working out a maths equation or writing a poem or crafting a piece of woodwork. We know how to do it, but there is conscious involvement in the execution of it. Then we move to conscious incompetence, when there is something we don't understand or we don't know how to do, but we are aware of it as a skill or a lacking skill or piece of knowledge. Now, this might be a foreign language that we don't understand or we can't speak. We know it's out there and that there are other people who can do it, and we're aware of the fact that we can't. It's a skill we could learn, but we haven't or we haven't yet. And finally, the stage I'm most interested in highlighting today, unconscious incompetence. Now, this is where not only do we not understand or know how to do something, we don't even realize or recognize the deficit. We're not even aware that this information or this ability or this skill exists. It's kind of like the jobs out there that we don't even know about. We might enjoy that job, we might be good at it, but we don't even realize that it exists. This is the case for students that often work with me when they realize there's a whole other element to their study that they're missing, a whole other way to ensure that they get their best possible grade that doesn't take the place of subject content and building their knowledge and their understanding, but actually accompanies it and make sure that all that learning actually pays off in their exams and assessments. Now, this is things like exam technique, essay strategy, the active revision, that's even a thing, that dissecting exam board retrospectives to get inside the minds of the chief examiners is even possible. And you know what? That was me too, all the way through my student years. Even for the first, I would probably say 3.5 years of my teaching. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true, because once I decided to do external exam marking and went to all the induction meetings and trainings around that, I couldn't believe there was this huge gap in what I felt was essential information and skills for me as a teacher and of course for my students who are really the ones that need it. I don't kind of need those skills anymore. I'm not the one sitting the exams, but I know that if I did, I'd do it so much more differently to what I did when I was a student. So that students who are working hard, learning the subject content, but still not getting the results they feel they could or should be, this is usually down to that unconscious incompetence. Not even being aware of the need for those exam technique skills or the need to understand how mark schemes and rubric criteria really work. Now, as a parent, you only really need to be at the level of conscious incompetence, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. You don't need to, though, be a master of exam technique or an expert essay writer. It's just good for you to be aware that these skills and this information exists and is necessary so that you can just guide your team to it, so that your team can then become consciously competent and perhaps even eventually unconsciously competent, so that they naturally look for and laser in on those command words. They instinctively know how to structure their views and their points in an extended response so that the examiner can easily allocate marks to each and every point that they're making. So there you have it, the 4 stages of competence and how they apply to your team study and their results. I'm Katie Price, Great Transformation Expert, and if you'd like to learn more about the skills and competencies that I've mentioned in this video, like exam technique, dissecting mark schemes, and many more, then be sure to look out in your inbox next week for the details of my upcoming free parent webinar. And if you're not already on my email list, you can do so you can get on there by going to www.greattransformation.com, grab the free parent guide that's there, and you'll automatically be added to my email list. I hope to see you on the registration list next week when I send out those invites, and until then, let's make this a fabulous week.